Snetterton. Well, Snetterton's an ex-airfield circuit going back many years, of course, and effectively it's gone through various changes over the years, and currently runs at, you've effectively got three layouts. You've got the Snetterton 100, 200 and 300 layouts. The 100 is quite a small infield section. The 200 is basically what the old original circuit used to be like, and then the 300 puts the infield section and the 200 lap together, and it's a much better option really, the 300, because you've got a really good selection of corners to play about with. Its features are effectively how sort of flat, wide and open it is. You've got two really long straights, the straight coming from Murray's up to turn 1 over the start finish, and then you've got the Bentley straight, which is obviously what everyone calls the back straight leading down to the S's. And that allows you to sort of stretch out a little bit, do a bit of slipstreaming and get the bike up towards some sort of top speed capability. It's got a really great selection of corners. There's a hairpin called Montreal and a second hairpin called Agostini, which isn't 180 degrees, but it's bloody sharp. Then you've got a couple of really fast, long, high-speed corners, Corums, which is 2 corners from home, really important to get right. And a few nudgety stuff as well, a couple of tight right-handers, and a couple of tight lefts as well to play with, a couple of double apex corners, so it's got pretty much everything you want to play with. Likes for me is turn 1, Riches. It's a double apex right-hander, really fast approach at the end of the start-finish straight, big squeeze of brakes. First apex you don't worry too much about, you kind of drift out into the middle of the track between the two apexes, still scrubbing off speed. In between the two apexes, pick the throttle up, settle the bike, and then make sure you bag the second apex, really important. And by the time you get to the second apex, you're pretty much not on full gas, but driving really hard, and then let it run out to the curb coming out, and a little bit of power sliding coming out. It's ballsy and fast, right up my street. Dislikes. Well, dislikes for me is really the last corner, Murray's. It's a really tight left-hander leading onto the start-finish straight. There's nothing really wrong with the corner itself, but it's its positioning. You've just gone round Corums, which is a really, really long, maximum angle of lean, high-speed corner, really ballsy, and then you come into this super tight left-hander. But because of the nature of where the Corums is still turning, and then all of a sudden Murray's appears going tight left, and it's extremely difficult to get into the right place at the right time, so you end up compromising the exit of Corums and the entrance into Murray's. If you try and get Murray's 100% right to get a good exit, you're going to get passed by a handful of people all going for the apex, and there's very little you can do about it because how tight it is at that point. It does create some real good last lap manoeuvres, shall we say, but I don't like the corner particularly. It could have been made so much nicer with more of an open corner to create more of a flowing section, but who knows. Tricky corner for me is Oggy's, which is towards the end of the infield section. The approach to it's fairly straightforward. It's just basically a tight right-hander. There's a couple of little humps and bumps as you sort of run in towards the apex and the first part of the exit. But the exit starts to open out sort of progressively to start with, but then there's a second sort of kink. It's so far out of the corner you could almost call it something else, but I think it's brought into Oggy's as a corner. And it's all too easy, if you're not looking far enough around the corner, to run through Oggy's, run right out to the left-hand side of the track, and then end up practically on the grass because of this second kink where you have to back right off the throttle. So the entrance is it's straightforward, but the exit is the tricky bit of Oggy's, and all too easy. I've been there, ended up on the grass. Memories from Snetterton. Well, I've done loads and loads of racing there. I had some fantastic races, but for me, memories are more than sometimes what the racing is. And I was racing on a 250LC going back into the early 80s with a great bunch of mates. And we used to go down obviously the night before and set up camp, and of course we'd have a few sherbets, and we were usually under the influence by midnight-ish. And a storm blew in overnight, and horrendous rain and the wind, and I was sleeping in the back of a van. And I can remember somebody banging on the back door of the van, Mike, your bike's on its side, and I couldn't quite figure it out because I was half cut at that point. Anyway, I opened the back of the van doors and the rain was blowing a gale. the big tent we had with all the bikes in had just gone. That just disappeared. We never found that. All the bikes were on the side, and there was a few people sleeping in the tent, and they were still actually asleep in the sleeping bags. And we woke them up and got everybody up and sort of stood the bikes up and tied everything down as best we could. And it was a proper storm. So you can imagine now, about 2 o'clock in the morning, sobering up quite rapidly at this point. However, absolutely soaked to the skin. And of course, you've got to be up at 7 in the morning ready for scrutineering. So, good stroke bad memory. At the time, it wasn't great, but thinking back, brilliant. Get on board for just $5 a month to see my exclusive content. But if you like what I do, you can subscribe on higher tiers for greater rewards.